Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Let me take you straight to the moment I stopped breathing, not because I was dying, but because I realized my wife was living a life I wasn't invited to. Her purse was wide open. That's all it took. One careless moment on her part. One glance on mine. One orange bottle. No label. No explanation. Just a few blue pills rattling inside like secrets that didn't belong to either of us. I wasn't looking for anything. I swear on whatever pride I still had. But when the bottle rolled toward me, like it wanted to be found, I picked it up. And suddenly everything I'd been ignoring, dismissing, suppressing, turned solid. Cold. I could feel the betrayal in my hand before I even searched the pill's imprint. Viagra. She doesn't need it. I definitely don't need it. So who was it for? My stomach dropped in this slow, unbearable way, like I was falling in a dream but never hitting the ground. I stared at the bottle for what felt like an hour. Then I did something I didn't even recognize myself doing. I swapped the pills. Not with poison. I'm not a monster. Just with allergy meds. Same shape, same shade, same size. She wouldn't notice. But her boyfriend would. That little bottle, that quiet, ridiculous act of desperation, became the fuse that blew up everything she thought she had under control. Within 3 days, I started receiving anonymous messages. She came home shaking. There were whispers on our voicemail. A car parked across the street every night. Her late meetings turned into panic. Her phone was no longer glued to her palm. Now it buzzed, and she just stared at it. She never noticed the switch. Not yet. But everything else started unraveling faster than I expected. And I hadn't even started with the real plan yet. The most terrifying part wasn't that she lied to me. It was how effortlessly she kept doing it, like blinking or driving the same route to work without thinking. That night, she walked in just before 10, hair perfect, blouse tucked in like she'd spent the evening in a boardroom. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted her to heat up the leftovers, and called me babe, like she hadn't been out ruining my life. I watched her open the fridge, crack open a lime soda, and lean against the counter like this was just another Tuesday. All I could do was nod and mumble, pretending to be tired. But my heart was slamming against my ribs with every fake smile she gave me. Because I knew. And she didn't know that I knew. Yet, the switch had already happened. The little orange bottle was back in her purse, right where I found it. Only now, it held 4 antihistamines, the drowsy kind. A petty move, maybe. But I wasn't ready to confront her. I wasn't ready to hear her say it out loud, or worse, lie to my face again and make me question my own sanity. I needed to see something crumble. And fast. The first crack came the next day. Camille left for yoga again, which now I understood was probably just code for whatever motel or parked car or sad apartment her affair partner lived in. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I waited. Around 11:48 p.m., her phone lit up on the nightstand. She was in the bathroom. I didn't touch it, just glanced. A preview banner from an unsaved number. Call me. Something's wrong. Wrong? Suddenly my mouth went dry. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe confusion, maybe disappointment, but wrong wasn't the word I thought I'd see. Then another message popped up. Did you give me the wrong pills? What's happening? My throat closed. I turned away before she came out, pretending to be asleep, but inside, I was spiraling. Did he take them? Was he reacting badly? Was this real? Or was I going to end up in some legal nightmare because of a petty swap? I couldn't sleep. I lay there for hours, facing the wall, listening to her breathing slow into that soft rhythm of deep sleep, like she didn't have the weight of another man's chaos pressing down on her. The next morning, she was tense. She didn't say much. She left early. No kiss, no have a good day. Just a stiff nod and the door clicking shut behind her. I spent the whole day wondering if I'd gone too far. Wondering what the fallout was. Wondering if I'd made it worse for me. Then around 3 p.m., the first anonymous voicemail came in. A man's voice. Low, unsure, and angry. You think this is funny? You could have gotten me seriously hurt. If you're trying to scare her, it's working. She's losing it. I didn't breathe for nearly 30 seconds. He thought she had done it. He blamed her. And she was unraveling because of it. I should have felt relief. I should have felt triumphant. But all I felt was dread. Because if that man was dangerous, if he was the kind of person who wouldn't stop at words, then this was about to spiral way beyond what I could control. And yet, part of me wanted it too. Just a little. She didn't come home that night. No message, no call, nothing. Just silence. By midnight, I had paced my living room raw. Our anxious terrier, Moxie, kept scratching at the door like she was waiting for a ghost. I stared at the pill bottle in her purse for the 100th time, still sitting right where I left it, and I kept asking myself, "What have you done, August?" But it wasn't regret. It was something else. Something twisted. Because under all the dread was this tiny, burning curiosity. What was happening out there? What mess had I kicked loose? At 2:13 a.m., headlights finally washed across our front window. Her car. She stepped inside looking like she'd just run from something. Her mascara was smudged, hair clinging to her forehead with sweat, lips trembling, not crying, but close. She didn't speak, just dropped her keys in the bowl, walked past me, and disappeared into the bathroom. I stayed on the couch, pretending to be half asleep. But I heard it. The soft whimper, the splash of water, the unmistakable sound of a person trying not to break. She slept on the edge of the bed that night, wrapped in the blanket like armor. I watched the back of her neck rise and fall with uneven breaths. And I realized something terrifying. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of him. The next morning, she took the day off work, which was unheard of. Camille doesn't miss work for anything. She once went to a client pitch with the flu and a wrist brace. But this time, she sat in the kitchen with her phone face down, just staring out the window, nursing a cup of coffee that went cold before she touched it. When I asked if she was okay, she gave me this look like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Then she said the first honest words I'd heard from her in weeks. "I think I made a mistake." I didn't push. I didn't nod. I just stood there, heart pounding, wondering if this was her confession. But she didn't elaborate. She picked up her phone, locked it, and walked out to the porch like she needed air. 3 hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. Camille, in a restaurant booth, sitting across from a man with his back to the camera. Her expression, horror, like she'd just seen a ghost, like someone had told her something she couldn't unhear. I stared at the image, fingers trembling. And then, a second message. "You've done more damage than you think. Hope you're ready." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just some sleazy affair anymore. This was something deeper, something planned, calculated. And now whatever was unraveling wasn't in my hands anymore. I deleted the message before she could see it, but I couldn't unsee the look on her face. She was scared of him, but now, maybe she should have been scared of me too. Because the bottle? I wasn't finished with it. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. Not cold shoulder, not passive-aggressive distance, just silence. Like her mouth had been sewn shut by something she couldn't explain. And to be honest, I didn't push. I watched from the edges, observing her unravel in slow, subtle ways. Her coffee routine got sloppy. Her usually perfect eyeliner vanished. Her voice, when she answered phone calls, was flat, mechanical, like she was reading lines from a bad play. And she had started locking the bathroom door. Always. But what really got to me was the night I woke up to her crying in the kitchen. It was around 2:30 a.m. I heard the chair creak, the fridge door open, the soft rustle of someone wiping their face with a dish towel. I didn't go in. I just stood in the hallway, out of her line of sight, and listened. She sobbed in this small, choking way, like someone trying to hold themselves together with paper clips. The woman who used to stare down executives in power suits was now shivering under the weight of something invisible, something she brought into our lives without ever asking. I should have felt vindicated. She was in pain. I did that. But I didn't feel powerful. I felt like a man hiding behind a curtain, watching his marriage bleed out in front of him and still not brave enough to walk into the room. Still not ready to ask her who he was. Or why she did it. The next morning, the universe threw a match on the gasoline I didn't realize was already spilling across our lives. Camille got a package. Small box, no return address, but her name was on the label. I handed it to her without thinking. She stared at it for a long time before opening it. When she finally did, she gasped and dropped it. Her hands went to her face like she'd touched fire. I bent down and picked it up. Inside, one single blue pill. And a note, typed on cheap printer paper. "Let's try this again. No mistakes this time." She snatched the box from me and tried to brush it off. "It's a prank," she said, voice trembling. "Probably spam, some subscription thing." But she was pale. Sweating. Her eyes refused to meet mine. She dropped the whole thing in the trash and walked straight into the bathroom. The door locked. I heard the faucet run for a long time. That was when I realized something wasn't adding up. This wasn't just some affair gone sideways. This guy, whoever he was tracking her. Or worse, he was tracking us. Because how would he know? How would he know about the pill swap unless he suspected she'd tampered with it? Unless he knew about me. The panic crept in. What if he was watching our house? What if he had cameras? What if he'd been in our home at some point when I wasn't there? I started noticing small things I hadn't before. The curtain near the back door was slightly pulled open when I swore I'd closed it. The basement light was on one evening, even though I hadn't gone down there in weeks. A drawer in the guest room had been left ajar. And then, one night, I found something I hadn't expected. Another phone, hidden beneath a stack of winter scarves in the hall closet. It wasn't hers, or at least, not one I'd ever seen. No case, no fingerprint lock, just a 4-digit passcode, which, stupidly, was our wedding anniversary. I opened it. There were only a few messages, but enough. Her name wasn't Camille in the chats. She went by Ray. And the man? He called himself M. One of the messages read, "You're not going cold on me now, Ray. Not after everything we planned." Planned? What the hell were they planning? I stared at that phone like it might detonate. For a moment, my mind just went blank, not out of fear, but from overload. There it was. Proof that this wasn't just a fling or a moment of weakness. They had aliases. A second number. Plans. Camille was Ray in some parallel life I had no clue existed, and M wasn't just some sleazy coworker or ex-boyfriend trying to rekindle a spark. This was something orchestrated. Intentional. Bigger than me. Bigger than marriage. The texts didn't talk about dates or hotel rooms. They talked about timelines. Deadlines. Risk. Be patient, one said. It'll all be ours soon. Ours. What was ours? Money? Property? Me? That's when it hit me. My name. My account. I'm the sole owner on our house title. The life insurance. Even the retirement fund Camille always ignored, saying, "You'll probably outlive me. What do I care?" It had all sounded like dark humor at the time, but now? Now every offhand comment replayed in my head like warning bells I'd tuned out. I should have called the cops. Or a lawyer. Or my brother, at the very least. But instead, I stood there in the closet like a forgotten coat rack, holding that burner phone, scrolling with a shaking thumb. One message from just 2 weeks ago read, "He doesn't suspect a thing. He's too soft. Just a few more steps." That one nearly knocked the air out of me. That's what I was to her. Too soft? I guess I should have been furious. I should have smashed the phone, or stormed into the living room and thrown it at her feet. But all I did was sit on the closet floor, lights off, door cracked, listening to her laugh in the other room as she watched some late-night talk show like nothing was wrong. Like I wasn't 5 feet away discovering she was plotting my erasure. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, eyes open, listening to every breath she took beside me. And the next day, I began testing her. Small questions. Soft jabs. Do you still want to go to Colorado this winter? Ever think about updating our life insurance plan? Did you go by any nicknames in college? She never flinched. Lied so smoothly, I almost respected it. She even joked. "Why are you asking such weird questions, August? You writing a thriller novel?" I laughed along, pretending like I wasn't already living one. And then, 3 days later, something changed. She got a call, a short one. No name showed on the screen. She stepped outside to answer it. When she came back in, her face was tight, eyes blank. She sat down across from me at the table, picked at her cuticles, and then asked, "Would you ever move, like, out of state? Maybe just pick up and start over?" I froze. She kept talking, trying to act casual, saying how maybe we both needed a change, and how people in their 40s sometimes reevaluated everything. Like a midlife evolution, she called it. I nodded, smiled, even agreed a little. But in my gut, I knew. That wasn't a question. That was a setup. She wanted me to agree. To follow. To go wherever she was planning to go so whatever came next wouldn't look like a disappearance. It would look like a joint decision. A fresh start. I'd be the man who went willingly into the trap. But now I had something she didn't know about. Her secret phone. And a backup plan of my own. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not even my friend Travis, who I usually vented to when things got weird. I didn't know who I could trust. But I did know one thing. Whatever Camille and M were planning, it was coming fast. And if they thought I was still too soft, They were about to find out just how sharp quiet men can get. 2 mornings later, Camille made us smoothies. Banana, spinach, flaxseed. The kind of blend she usually forced on me when she felt guilty about something. She handed me mine with that same careful, too wide smile I hadn't seen since the first year of our marriage. I watched her across the counter as she sipped her own and pretended everything was okay. But something about it felt off. Her eyes weren't focused. Her movements were delayed, like she was distracted but trying too hard not to be. I took one slow sip and quietly poured the rest down the bathroom sink when she wasn't looking. I know, I sound paranoid. But when you find out your wife is operating under a fake name and collaborating with someone called M to do something involving timelines and taking what's ours, you stop trusting even the water in your own house. You stop breathing easy. You stop assuming you're just overthinking things. Because suddenly, you're not. Later that afternoon, I took the burner phone she thought was still hidden and backed it up onto an encrypted drive I kept in my desk. Every screenshot, every message, every call log. I even printed a few texts and sealed them in an envelope labeled, "In case I vanish." Just in case I ended up becoming a story someone else had to tell. Dramatic? Probably. But if you'd seen what I saw, you'd have done the same. One message that kept echoing in my mind read, "We wait until the switch. He won't see it coming." The switch. I still didn't know what that meant, a location, a flight, a financial move, but they were building up to something. And then the universe, in its sixth sense of humor, gave me another piece of the puzzle. I received an email from my bank's fraud department. Nothing serious, just a heads up that someone had attempted to access my account using an incorrect password 5 times from an unknown device. It was flagged, locked, and reset. I hadn't touched my banking in over a week. Camille had always ignored anything financial, until now. I checked our joint account. Nothing had been withdrawn, but a new travel rewards credit card had been opened in both our names. Flights booked. Hotel reservation for 2 in Vancouver. Departure date, 6 days from now. She was planning an exit. I confronted her that night, not directly, but carefully, surgically. I asked, "Have you ever been to Canada?" She blinked once, then said, "Not since college." "Why?" I shrugged and told her I saw a great travel deal and thought it might be fun. She nodded, muttered something about being too busy with work, and left it at that. But I saw it. The hesitation, the calculation, the fear that maybe I knew more than I was letting on. That night, I installed a tracker on her car. I told myself it was just insurance. But really, I needed to know what she did when she wasn't pretending to be my wife. The next day, the tracker pinged an unfamiliar address across town. A rundown duplex near an old train line. I drove by, didn't stop, just observed. And that's when I saw him. Tall, thin, maybe early 40s. Buzzed hair, leather jacket in 70-degree weather. He stepped out of the building and lit a cigarette with the kind of nonchalance that screamed, "I'm not afraid of being watched." And Camille? She followed him out moments later. Not laughing, not smiling, just following. She kissed him. It wasn't passionate. It was robotic, like sealing a deal. And then she handed him something small and metallic. It was my spare car key. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I lay in the dark, listening to her soft breathing beside me, trying to imagine the moment she had slipped far enough away from who I thought she was to hand over the key to my car, to our car, to a man I didn't even know existed 3 weeks ago. Did she feel guilty? Was it survival? Love? Blackmail? I had no answers. Just that image burned into my brain. Her fingers brushing his palm, that small flash of metal between them, and her walking away without looking back. The woman next to me now wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger I was suddenly trapped beside, and I was counting hours, not memories. The next morning, she acted like everything was fine. Made eggs. Hummed a song I didn't recognize. Told me she had a client thing in the afternoon and might be home late. Her voice was steady. She even kissed me on the cheek, like she hadn't thrown a live grenade into our marriage and was now watching the countdown. I played along. Nodded. Smiled. Watched her drive away like it was any other Tuesday. But I knew where she was really going. The tracker on her car gave me a live update 15 minutes later. Same duplex. Same side of town. And I had had enough. I didn't follow her this time. Not directly. I went to the bank. I closed the travel credit card. Froze the joint account. moved everything I legally could into a protected trust under my name. Then I drove home, logged into her burner phone again, and saw two new messages from M. The first said, "Pick up tomorrow. No delays. Have it packed." The second said, "He won't even know what hit him. Ray, this is our clean break." Clean break. It was no longer just an affair. It was a full-blown escape plan. Camille was going to vanish, with him, with whatever money she could grab, and probably with my car, my name, and my identity if I hadn't cut the wires in time. And I knew what the switch was now. It wasn't a place. It was me. She was going to switch her life. Husband for lover. Old name for new. And I was going to be left in the smoke. But what they didn't know was that I'd already lit a match of my own. I printed everything. Every message, every login, every photo. I made 3 identical folders and mailed them to 3 different people. My friend Travis, my cousin Leona, and a lawyer I'd quietly consulted with a year ago when Camille started locking her phone. The folder was labeled, "If anything happens to me, start here." That evening, I confronted her, not with shouting, not with drama, but with absolute calm. I stood in the kitchen, held up her spare phone, and simply asked, "Who's M?" Her face drained instantly. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I asked again, "Who is M?" She tried to grab the phone, but I stepped back. She started stammering, something about it being a mistake, a friend from years ago, some old situation resurfacing. It was laughable. She couldn't even land on one lie. I asked her if she had something packed. Her silence answered that for me. "I know everything," I said quietly. "I know about Vancouver. I know about the credit card. I know about the switch." She went pale, then angry, then quiet again. The kind of quiet that says, "You weren't supposed to outsmart me." I didn't give her time to react. I told her she had until midnight to leave the house. I'd already spoken with a lawyer. I wasn't pressing charges, not yet. But if she took so much as a towel that didn't belong to her, I'd make sure Ray became a very familiar name on every fraud watch list in the country. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at me like I'd betrayed her by not being the fool she thought I was. By 11, she was gone. But it wasn't over. Because the next morning, I got a knock on the door. Not from Camille. Not from M. From the police. The knock wasn't aggressive. It wasn't dramatic. Just 2 soft raps, like whoever stood behind that door wasn't in a rush, like they already knew everything and didn't need to force anything. My stomach dropped anyway. I opened it with 1,000 scenarios running through my head, none of them good. And there they were. 2 officers. One older, one younger, both calm but serious. "Mr. Ryland?" the older one asked. I nodded. He handed me a folded piece of paper. "A police report. We believe you may be the intended target of identity fraud and financial exploitation. Would you mind answering a few questions about someone named Ray?" That name. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't about me anymore. Camille had gotten sloppy, and somewhere along the way, she, or M, had crossed a line even bigger than betrayal. They hadn't just lied and plotted. They'd committed actual crimes, and now the consequences were finally catching up. I told them everything. Showed them the phone, the messages, the fake card, the addresses. I expected to feel scared, exposed. But I didn't. I felt light. Like I'd finally stopped waiting for the sky to fall and started helping it crash in the right direction. 3 weeks later, Camille was arrested. I wasn't there for it. But I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she and M had tried to cross the Canadian border using falsified documents and were detained after a random inspection flagged inconsistencies. The cops had been tipped off, apparently by someone who mailed in an anonymous folder with just the right evidence. I won't say who, but I'll say this: planning ahead pays off. The last message I ever got from Camille was a single line, sent from a block number the day before her arrest. It said, "You never knew how to fight fair." She was right. I didn't. I fought quiet. I fought patient. I let her dig the hole, and then I simply stepped back and watched her fall in. But here's the real ending. The one that matters. I'm okay now. I moved into a small house just outside the city, started painting again, something I gave up years ago. Moxie, our little anxious terrier, finally sleeps through the night without barking at every creak. I cut off every trace of the past that didn't serve me. I even changed my number. A fresh start. Mine this time. I don't tell this story to play the victim or the hero. I tell it because sometimes the quiet ones, the so-called soft ones, They're the ones who survive the storm with their dignity intact. We don't throw punches. We don't set fires. We wait. We observe. And when it matters most, we act. Thank you for sticking through all 8 parts of this absolute mess of a journey. If you've ever felt like the quiet one in someone else's chaos, I hope this gave you some perspective and maybe a little strength. Now I want to hear from you. What moment in this story shocked you the most? The pills? The fake name? The spare key? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the quiet ones finally get to speak.